My name is Anna. I'm 27 years old, and I live with my family in a modest but warm house that we've called home for as long as I can remember. Our family is made up of 6 people: my parents, my 2 brothers, Lucas and Ethan, my younger sister, Mia, and me. Lucas, the oldest sibling, is 29 and always trying to act like the rock of the family, though his eyes often betray the weight he carries. Ethan is 23, witty and full of life, but with a quiet side he doesn't often show. And Mia, the baby of the family at 19, has a smile that could light up any room, though lately that smile has felt rarer than it should. From the outside, we might look like the picture of a happy, close-knit family. But the truth is far more complicated. Growing up, our house wasn't just filled with laughter and warmth. It was also filled with arguments. My parents, Sarah and David, loved us, but they struggled to love each other the way they once did. It wasn't always like this. In the early years, they were happy. I still remember sitting on the couch, watching them dance together to old songs on the radio. They would laugh, and the sound of their joy was like sunshine in our home. But somewhere along the way, that sunshine dimmed. It started with little things about bills, disagreements about parenting, or long silences that stretched through dinner. Lucas used to try to mediate, stepping in with a joke or a change of subject. But as the years went by, the arguments became louder, more frequent, and harder to ignore. When I was 12, there was a night that's burned into my memory. It started with a simple disagreement about money. My mom wanted to spend a little extra on a family trip, something to bring us closer. My dad thought it was frivolous. "You don't understand how hard I work," he shouted, his voice echoing through the house. "And you don't understand how much this family needs more than just your paycheck," my mom fired back. "I work all day, Sarah. Do you think money grows on trees? I can't keep up with your endless spending." My dad was frustrated. Endless spending? Is buying groceries and paying for the kids' school fees a luxury now? "You're acting like I waste money," Mom replied angrily. "Maybe you don't waste money, but you sure don't know how to save any." "Why can't you manage with what we have?" Dad said. "Manage? I've been managing for years, David. Do you even realize how hard it is to stretch every penny while you lecture me from your high horse?" Mom was hurt. "Oh, so now it's my fault? I'm the one breaking my back for this family, and all I get is complaints?" Dad was raising his voice. "This isn't about complaints. It's about you not listening. You're so busy blaming me that you forget we're supposed to be a team," Mom said with teary-eyed but in firm voice. Mia, who was only 4 at the time, clung to me, her tiny hands trembling. Lucas and Ethan sat frozen, their faces pale. I remember trying to distract Mia by whispering stories about princesses and castles, but her wide eyes stayed fixed on the door where our parents were yelling. Mia whispered, "Why do Mom and Dad fight so much?" "It scares me," Lucas trying to comfort her. "They don't mean to. It's just grown-ups have problems sometimes." "But why do they have to yell? Can't they talk like normal people?" I hate it when they fight. Ethan was frustrated. Mia sniffling. Do you think it's our fault? Maybe if we were better kids, they wouldn't be so upset. Jack said, shaking his head. No, Mia, it's not our fault. They're just stressed, that's all. Stressed? That doesn't give them the right to ruin everything. It's like they don't care about how we feel. Ethan was angry. I know it's hard, but we have to stick together, okay? No matter what, we'll always have each other, Lucas said calmly. I told you Lucas is our rock. Mia said, hugging Jack. I just want them to be happy again. Lucas, me too, Mia, me too. I was silent. I was listening, everyone. Mom and Dad out there and my siblings in front of me. I have nothing to say. What should I say? I don't know. From that night on, I started noticing how their arguments shaped us. Lucas became overprotective, always trying to shield us from the noise. Ethan retreated into his music, headphones on to drown out the shouting. Mia grew quieter, her once vibrant personality dimming as she tiptoed around the house, afraid to say the wrong thing. And me, I tried to be the glue. I'd clean the house before my mom got home to make her smile or help my dad with his paperwork to ease his stress. But no matter what I did, I couldn't fix them. The arguments weren't just noise. They were storms that seeped into every corner of our lives. Ethan once confided in me that he didn't believe in love anymore. If Mom and Dad, who started off so happy, can't make it, what chance do the rest of us have? He said, his voice heavy with bitterness. Mia, now a teenager, started spending more time out of the house, seeking peace anywhere but home. Lucas moved out as soon as he could, but his calls to check on us were tinged with guilt. One day when I was 21, I found my mom sitting alone in the kitchen. Her head was in her hands and her shoulders shook with silent sobs. I hesitated for a moment, not wanting to intrude, but the sight of her pain pulled me forward. I quietly sat beside her and placed a hand on her back. "Mom," I whispered, "why can't things go back to the way they were?" She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she wiped her face with trembling hands, trying to compose herself. Finally, she looked at me, her eyes red and tired. "I don't know, Anna," she said softly. "Somewhere along the way, we stopped talking and started fighting. I wish I could fix it, but I don't know how." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my own emotions in check. "But Mom, don't you think you and Dad could try? For us? For the family?" Her lips trembled as she sighed. "It's not that simple, Anna. When you've been together as long as we have, things get complicated. There's so much history, so many wounds. Sometimes I don't even know where to start." I leaned closer, my voice steady but full of desperation. "Start by talking to each other. Not yelling, not blaming, just talk. You used to, didn't you? You used to love each other so much." A faint, sad smile crossed her face. "We did. Your father was my everything once. He still is, in a way. But life happened. Stress, responsibilities, misunderstandings. We stopped seeing each other and started seeing the problems instead. I nodded, understanding her pain more deeply than I ever had before. Mom, you always taught us that family is everything. You told us to never let go of the people we love. Why can't you and Dad do the same? Her eyes filled with fresh tears. You're right, Anna. I've been so focused on the hurt that I forgot why we started this journey together in the first place. Your dad and I, we've lost our way. But that doesn't mean it's too late. I squeezed her hand gently. It's not too late, Mom. But you have to take the first step. And maybe Dad is waiting for you to do that. She looked at me with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Do you really think so? I do, I said firmly. You and Dad are the foundation of this family. If you can find your way back to each other, everything else will fall into place. But you have to try. For the first time that night, she seemed lighter, as if a small weight had lifted from her heart. Thank you, Anna, she whispered, pulling me into a hug. I'll try. For you, for my family, and for myself. As I held her, I silently prayed that my words would be the spark she needed to begin healing the cracks in their relationship. That night, I realized something. My parents didn't argue because they hated each other. They argued because they were hurting. They didn't know how to bridge the gap that had grown between them. Years passed, and I moved back home to help care for Mia while she finished school. The house still carried the echoes of those old arguments, but something inside me refused to let this pattern define us. One evening, after yet another argument between my parents, I gathered my siblings in the living room. We need to talk to them, I said. Lucas frowned. What's the point? They've been like this for years. But we've been like this for years too, I replied, tiptoeing around them, pretending it doesn't affect us when it does. Maybe it's time we said something. Together, the four of us sat down with our parents. It wasn't easy. There were tears, raised voices, and moments of silence so heavy it felt like the walls might crack. Do you know what it's like to grow up in a house where love feels like a battlefield? I asked them. We love you both, but your arguments have shaped us in ways you don't see. Ethan spoke up. I stopped believing in relationships because of you two. Mia added, I don't even want to come home most days because it feels so tense here. Our words seemed to pierce through the armor they'd built over the years. My dad looked at my mom, his face softening in a way I hadn't seen in years. I never wanted to hurt you, he said quietly, or the kids. My mom nodded, tears streaming down her face. I never wanted this either. It wasn't a magic fix. There were no instant solutions. But that conversation was a turning point. They agreed to try counseling, something they'd always resisted before. Slowly, they started to communicate, not perfectly, but better. Now, as I sit in this same house years later, I see glimpses of the love they once had. It's not always easy, but they're trying. And that's what matters. To all the parents out there, your children may not always show it, but they feel the weight of your words and actions. A peaceful, loving home isn't just a gift to yourselves, It's a foundation for your children's futures. Please, if you're struggling, don't give up on each other. Love isn't perfect, but it's worth fighting for. Your children will thank you for it, even if they don't say it out loud. If you enjoy the story, please like, subscribe, and share.